up guys, welcome back to Elderwood Games. This week we're talking all about progress. So all of us understand that we started somewhere, either just by picking up a free model from our local Warhammer store, or maybe just playing a game with a friend's army. But we all also know where we are now and how far we've come with our painting, our model making, and so on. But how best can we kind of navigate and assess how far we've actually come? And also, how can we do that in a way that isn't, demeaning or self-debilitating and that sort of thing? So I want to talk first about how I think we can, as hobbyists and the like, sort of track our progress in a very effective way that isn't too time consuming or stringent on just us having time. And then also how we can look back at how we used to do things and properly assess where we are now. Our progress kind of comes in two different forms, especially in the Warhammer hobby, where a lot of us are building our own models, painting our own models, and then also playing games. So there's three basic areas where we can sort of track our progress. How are we doing in the building sector? How are we doing in the painting sector? And how are we doing in our games? And I think let's start with sort of the hobbying side, so building and painting, and then we'll talk about games in a little bit. When you're looking at these creative sides of the hobby, or just building the models as they come in the box, how can we sort of ascertain how we are doing progress-wise? Well, with this one, it's a little bit more, I guess, a little time-consuming in some way, but you may just start by timing yourself. How fast does it take you to build a single Space Marine intercessor? How fast does it take you to build a box of intercessors, or a box of your swarm, or a big monster and that sort of thing? And how quickly can you get that piece ready to be painted? And this isn't really a big thing, especially if you're just in it for the hobby side of it and just building for that sort of thing. But if you want to maybe figure out a way to become faster, the best way to do that is to know how fast you are now and how fast you are maybe in a few months after you've built a few more kits. Doing so will be able to help you track and see where you might be losing some time and where you might be able to gain some time in order to be able to accomplish your goals a little bit easier. Now, obviously, building is something that we all must do as part of the hobby, unless we're a secondhand hobbyist, right? If you're buying them pre-built from eBay, Discord, what have you, then obviously you don't have to worry about this portion of it. But for those of us that do this part, that's a great way to start. Figure out how long it takes you to build things now, and then just as you build those kits over and over, just kind of track how long it took you the next time and then the next time, and then also kits that are similar. It'll sort of help you understand what kind of time commitment you need in order to get those things done. So that way maybe you can plan a weekend around getting a box done, or if you have a half day coming up or a work holiday, and you'll have a few hours at home where you don't have any other responsibilities, and you want to be sure that you get this done, that you can confidently get it done in that block of time. Now, let's talk about painting. Obviously, painting has a much wider sort of breadth of things to it, right? You can get faster at painting, you can get more efficient at painting, or you can get, subjectively better at painting by, resembling some of your favorite Instagram or YouTube artists and that sort of thing. So let's just get the basics out of the way. How long does it take you to paint a single miniature? Just paint one from start to finish, or if you're a batch painter or painting a bunch of units, maybe just paint the box and see how long it takes you to do that, and then roughly divide that time by the number of units, and that should give you a ballpark of how long it takes you to paint a single model. Doing this over the course of time will help you understand how you are improving your process as a painter, how you're becoming faster, and the like. With anything, you're going to become faster with time, just because you understand how exactly you need to clean your brush in between paint colors, how to better apply the paint in a faster way, how to avoid having to repaint portions when you used to probably overpaint and that sort of thing. I know I've caught different colored arms with my paintbrush while quickly painting carapace with my Tyranids before, and having to go back and repaint those areas is always a bit of a pain. But as I've gotten better with painting my Tyranids, and as I've painted more of them, I've gotten a lot better at being able to avoid these areas and these instances where I have to go back and fix things. And that is overall an efficiency improvement, right? It's able to get paint on models faster and be able to get them from my painting desk to the game table even quicker. Now let's talk about the sort of subjective side of painting. Obviously, you can become better at painting. You can become a more experienced painter and create more defined miniatures with better technical skill. This is something that not everyone is going to want to do, but it is a cool way to, maybe if you are just a battlefield painter, an army painter, that sort of thing, you can spruce up your captains and your leaders and that sort of thing by just putting them up an extra notch, adding a few more highlights and a little bit more shadow, and be able to really pump these guys up. But how can we guarantee that we are improving as painters without physical evidence? Now, obviously, you have your collection, right? You can go back to the first model that you painted, see how much you've improved from that first model to your current model. You can also use things like Instagram to be able to kind of document your journey and all of that. That's something that I've really started to get more into and be able to share my process and kind of some other things on that front as well. It also helps you to build a community, either with people in your area. I have a couple of friends that we all kind of do the Instagram thing together, share each other's reels and all that fun stuff. But also I've met quite a few other painters and other wargame hobbyists through Instagram. And we're also starting to become like that, sharing each other's reels, reposting and all that fun stuff, commenting back and forth and messages and stuff. And that's a great way to help encourage you to become better or more consistent, is having those people that are checking in on you or posting things that are inspiring to you. And it's just a great way that now I have a little bit of a backlog, and I had posted many minis before. I can look back and see, oh, this is how my Space Marine armies used to look and the things that I learned there, or how my old Tyranids look versus how they look now, and sort of find, were there things that I did better back then that maybe I should incorporate now? Are there things I'm doing now that maybe I would revisit if I were to repaint those models ever in the future? Doing so allows you to get a sense of where you came from and where you are now, and you can feel some pride in that. Now, granted, you can also feel a little bit of, maybe not remorse, but maybe you see that you used to paint better or more subjectively better. Maybe you used to do pieces that you would want to enter into competition, but now you really only have time to do painting for the tabletop. And that's completely fine too. Maybe your progress in this stage of your hobbying journey is just getting things done quicker, so that way you have either more time to play, more time to spend with family, or you're able to crunch your hobby time into a quick morning session or a quick just after work session and that sort of thing, so you're able to be a part of the hobby that you obviously enjoy. Now lastly, to talk through sort of ways to show how you progress is the game itself. Obviously, part of this hobby is playing the game. Some of you may not, and that's completely fine. But I know I really enjoy playing the game, and I'm really inspired to get models done and painted so I can get them on the table to be able to play with my friends and have a good time. One thing that I do to keep track of my games is I actually take pictures of my scorecard. I do have this laser cut thing. I quickly designed it just in my laser cutting software, and it's basically just a scorecard. So it has primary score, secondary score, the round count and CP and that sort of thing. And I basically just use little 12 mil die to be able to kind of drop those in for my scoring at the end of each turn and that sort of thing. And at the end of the game, I can just take a quick photo of that on my phone and I'll be able to do that. And I use specific dice for each of my army in that, so that way I know which army is which just by quickly glancing at it. And that kind of helps me keep track of that sort of thing. Obviously now with the new Warhammer app, you also have the battle tracker built into it. And I think that's a great thing as well. You're actually able to see your score, what army you're playing against, and it tracks a few more details as well, and exactly how you're doing and how you're faring. And with this new edition of Warhammer even further, you're having to pick your disposition, and it's going up against your opponent's disposition, and learning how best and how each of those kind of work with you and how you do with each of those different dispositions and different primary missions, and being able to sort of track which you're doing better in and which ones maybe you aren't so good in, and how you can maybe tweak your list to be able to fit that even better. There's a lot of different ways that you can progress your game. Obviously, tweaking your list, tailoring your list to certain things, and also just learning how to better use your units. Figure out which units you really want to be able to keep and maybe marking those and knowing like, hey, I really need to make sure that my Sunforged unit of battle suits is able to drop in, properly assess a target, take that target out, and then be able to move into a situation where they're not just going to immediately get blown off the table. And that's something that I had to learn. I had to learn how to properly pilot my armies. My Tyranids are able to be a bit more aggressive because I have more bodies and more ways to kind of regenerate those things, whereas my Tau has to be a bit more cagey and a bit more resilient in a way of maneuvering around the table, outmaneuvering my opponent, staying in good spots, and that sort of thing. And I am really excited to try these armies out in the new edition. I haven't gotten a chance to play just yet. I'm hoping to get some games in very, very soon. And I'm hoping to get games with my Chaos Knights as well, so I can start learning how to properly pilot them and figure those things out. But obviously, all progress comes with a bit of a catch. You want to make sure that you're progressing forward, and the best way to do that is to understand where you are currently in the hobby and what makes the most sense for you to progress now. If you're new to the hobby, maybe progressing just being able to build and paint faster is the more important thing. Don't worry so much about whether you're winning games or not. You might be playing, 500, 750, 1,000 point games just to get your bearings on the rules, and you may be getting a little bit better there, but for the most part right now, if you focus on your building and your painting, that'll help you dividends further because you'll be able to get your points values and that sort of thing escalated much faster, and be able to do it that way. Maybe you're in the middle where you've kind of optimized at least your building and some of your painting, but now you want to embark on more of the creative side of the hobby. Maybe you're wanting to take on kit bashing or sculpting, or more in line with like competition level painting. So your progression right now is going to be, okay, how can I better make sculpts of these? How can I better combine kits and kit bash things to make them more appealing to me as a model maker or as a painter when I do eventually get to that part of the game? How can I improve my painting of my current army scheme or add details to my current army scheme to make it pop a bit more and emphasize a bit better and that sort of thing? There's a lot of different places where you can improve without having to go full on into competition level painting. If that's something that you want to do, then I highly recommend just following other artists, see what they're doing and see how they are applying paint to models. Even seeing what products they use, it's not super important what the brand is necessarily, but if they're thinning their paints with a certain medium, maybe look into other mediums of, other brands of mediums in that same category. If they're using a specific paint brand, maybe just try that out. Get a couple paints that are similar to the ones that you use and do it that way. There's a lot of different things that you can tweak and pull to be able to get better at miniature painting and that sort of thing. And then lastly, if you're a real gamer and you're wanting to get better at gaming in that sense, then you can go the meta list route, right? Look up the lists that mostly are akin to the army that you're playing, maybe ones that have models that you use. See if you can find actual gameplay of people piloting those things so that way you can learn how they pilot those. You can also watch the various gameplay YouTube channels here on YouTube. Tabletop Tactics, Play on Tabletop. Some of those are a little bit more short form, but you can also find some that live stream games to be able to get behind the thought process of gaming, because it's not just about having the list that's good, it's about understanding how that list plays. Very similar to how Magic the Gathering works. If you were to give a new person a bracket 5 competitive level EDH deck, they would not be able to play it because they don't know how the deck works. You have to know how each piece comes together in order to properly pilot a thing. And one thing that I like to do is I build my own lists for my armies, and while I do watch a lot of content about how people play for 40K, most of my armies are built with models that I really enjoy, and I branch out into new things when I find out find a new model that I like, or find out that there's a specific detachment that sounds a lot of fun and build on it that way. And obviously you're not going to win every game. That's just not really reasonable to think that you will. But if you can notice the slight tweaks that you do, either improving your primary score, maybe improving your secondary scores, and honestly, it might just be having models survive until the end. In some of my first games, that was a big problem for me. I got blown off the table so quickly that it felt like a wash, and I ended up changing armies because I was just getting tired of getting absolutely devastated every turn. So there's a lot of different ways that you could progress, and a great way to do so is just journaling. Just write down at the end of the game what you did right, what you did wrong, and even in painting, what you did right, what you did wrong, what colors you used, what worked, what didn't. And you're able to just look back on these things and have a breadth of knowledge, a little bit of a library of knowledge for you to review and be able to do that sort of thing. So I know this video is not really pertaining specifically to Warhammer necessarily, or just the game in general, but I wanted to do more of a hobby video. That's been sort of my kick lately. As you guys may know, if you follow me over on Instagram, I've been putting out a lot more content over there about my painting process. I'm working on some terrain stuff right now as well. And it's just been more on my mind about this idea of progress, how we progress as hobbyists, as painters, as gamers, and all that sort of stuff. So let me know your thoughts down below on how you track your progress and sort of what you've done and noticed in yourself as you've started to do that and progress in this hobby. But thank you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Later, guys.